Breaking news! There's a major shakeup happening inside the Ravens organization that nobody saw coming. Not fans, not analysts, not even the players. A controversial roster move, an unexpected shift in the depth chart, and a bold statement from a rival that could light a fire under this team heading into week 2. Something is definitely not sitting right in Baltimore. But before we dive into the details, make sure you hit that like button if you're a true Ravens fan. It's always amazing to see fans of all ages supporting this team. And if you feel like it, comment, "Go Ravens!" Let's jump straight into the latest moves coming out of the Ravens facility, and we're starting with a roster cut that definitely raised some eyebrows. Malik Hamm is officially out. Released from the practice squad, Hamm's departure closes the book on what once looked like a promising underdog story. Signed as an undrafted free agent in 2023, Hamm was one of those training camp standouts who quickly made waves. At 6 feet 3 inches, 250 pounds, he brought size and energy to Baltimore's front seven, enough to earn a spot on the 53-man roster that same year. But unfortunately, Hamm's story was plagued by injuries. He could never quite stay on the field long enough to carve out a role, and with Baltimore's deep rotation on the defensive front, it seems the team decided it was time to part ways. And with one door closing, another opened, and through it walked wide receiver Cornelius Johnson. Now this is where things start to get really interesting. Johnson isn't your typical practice squad ad. At 6 feet 3 inches, 208 pounds, he has the size you like in an outside receiver. He's not just a big body either. The Michigan product turned heads with an elite relative athletic score of 9.46 during the pre-draft process. A 4.44 40-yard dash, 37.5-inch vertical, and over 10 feet in the broad jump. That's the kind of athleticism that doesn't sit on a practice squad for long if it's put to use. His preseason stint with the Green Bay Packers saw him record 2 receptions for 53 yards and a touchdown. While those stats don't scream superstar, it was the way he played that stood out: smooth route running, controlled footwork, and the ability to separate and make plays after the catch. There's a poise to his game that feels different, and fans who've been begging for more consistency behind Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman may have reason to be cautiously optimistic. The reason Johnson didn't stick in Green Bay? It had nothing to do with his talent and everything to do with a jam-packed wide receiver room. The Packers are deep at that position. Romeo Dew, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, and even rookies like Matthew Golden and Savon Williams made competition brutal. Johnson, unfortunately, was the odd man out. Now he's in Baltimore, a place where opportunity might be just around the corner. And here's where things could get spicy. With DeAndre Hopkins likely nearing the end of his short-term role in Baltimore, let's be honest, it's hard to see him on this roster in 2025. The Ravens may be quietly eyeing long-term depth. Johnson's size, frame, and playing style aren't wildly different from Hopkins. Could this be an early audition for a bigger opportunity next year? And speaking of competition, let's pivot to one of the most controversial revelations of the week, the running back depth chart heading into the Week 2 clash with Cleveland. We all expected Derrick Henry to lead the backfield. No surprises there. Justice Hill sliding into the RB2 role also made sense. But here's the bombshell: Rasheen Ali has been elevated to RB3, bumping Keaton Mitchell down to RB4. That's right, Mitchell, who was electric last season and lit up the preseason, is now 4th on the depth chart. Even more shocking? He was a healthy scratch for the Ravens game against the Bills. A guy who averaged 8.4 yards per carry before tearing his ACL in 2023, a true lightning bolt out of the backfield, was sitting on the sidelines, inactive. John Harbaugh was asked about the decision, and his response left more questions than answers. He called it a numbers thing, mentioning that there weren't many offensive snaps available for Mitchell and that the young running back is still working on getting better on special teams. It's a classic Harbaugh answer, vague, measured, and probably not the full story. Let's rewind just a bit. Keaton Mitchell's return this preseason was met with excitement and anticipation. In his first real taste of action post-injury, he racked up 68 yards and a touchdown on just 9 carries against the Colts. It was the kind of performance that reminded everyone of what he can be: explosive, agile, and dangerous in open space. So why the sudden demotion? Let's keep going. There's no denying it. Keaton Mitchell's demotion feels like a gut punch to a lot of Ravens fans. We all remember what he brought to the field when healthy. He wasn't just explosive, he was game-changing. But now, it seems the coaching staff might be sending a message either about his health, his role, or possibly something deeper about trust and long-term plans. And when you pair that with the elevation of Rasheen Ali, things start to come into focus, or get even murkier, depending on how you look at it. Rasheen Ali, by the way, isn't just some throwaway depth piece. This is a rookie out of Marshall who impressed with his quick feet, vision, and ability to catch passes out of the backfield during the preseason. He's quietly been making a case for more snaps, and clearly the coaching staff has taken notice. Moving him up to RB3 this early in the season, especially over a player like Mitchell, who's already proven himself at the NFL level, is no small decision. It suggests that Baltimore might be preparing for a shift in offensive philosophy, or perhaps just hedging their bets against potential re-injury. And there's also the politics of roster management. A guy like Ali is healthy, hungry, and available. If the team isn't fully confident that Mitchell can play special teams or give them reliable snaps every week, they might be leaning toward the safer, more consistent option for now. But here's where that gets tricky. When you're trying to win the AFC North, safe doesn't always cut it. You need spark. You need guys who can flip a game on a single play. That's Keaton Mitchell in a nutshell. It's not just about Mitchell, though. These little roster tweaks reveal something larger about the Ravens' current state of mind. There's urgency, sure. But there's also caution, almost like the team is trying to find the balance between taking bold swings and protecting their long-term assets. That's where guys like Cornelius Johnson come into play. That's where decisions like elevating Rasheen Ali over Mitchell start to make a bit more sense. It's about depth, insurance, and maybe even grooming the next man up for 2025 and beyond. But while all of that's happening behind the scenes, one comment from the outside lit a firestorm this week, and it came from none other than Jeudy. Asked about what challenges the Ravens secondary presents, Jeudy hit the gas with a dismissive, almost laughable quote, "No challenges. Now look, we've heard our fair share of trash talk over the years, and in a division as tough as the AFC North, it's part of the game. But this felt personal. Here's a guy on a Browns team that's historically struggled to beat Baltimore, publicly shrugging off a secondary featuring Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton, and rookie standout Nate Wiggins. Yes, the Ravens gave up 41 points to Josh Allen and the Bills, and yes, there were breakdowns, no one's denying that. But to act like this secondary poses no threat, that's not just bold, that's reckless bulletin board material. Now, let's call it like it is, the defense didn't look sharp against Buffalo. Josh Allen exposed some real issues, particularly in coverage depth and pass rush synergy. But to pin it all on the secondary, that's missing the bigger picture. The pass rush wasn't getting home consistently. Guys like Jaire Alexander, who admittedly had a rough night, were left hanging out to dry. Still, it's hard to take a comment like Jeudy seriously when it feels like pure bait. But you better believe it was heard loud and clear in the Ravens locker room. This is the kind of comment that gets printed and taped up in the defensive back meeting room. It's the kind of thing that players don't forget, especially someone like Marlon Humphrey, who thrives on proving people wrong. And let's not forget, this is a group still adjusting, still coming together, still getting healthy. Jeudy may have poked the bear at exactly the wrong time. So as we look ahead to Sunday, you've got a few storylines to keep your eye on. Will Cornelius Johnson begin to push for a promotion off the practice squad if someone goes down? Will Keaton Mitchell reclaim his spot and prove that this was just a temporary move? And most importantly, how will the Ravens secondary respond to being called out so blatantly by a division rival? There's fire under this team right now. The depth chart changes, the injury questions, the outside noise, it's all coming together in what feels like the calm before a storm. This matchup with the Browns isn't just about early season positioning. It's personal now. And that's when Baltimore tends to play its best football, with something to prove, with their backs against the wall, and with critics writing them off. So now I'm turning it over to you. Do you think Jeudy crossed the line with his no challenges comment? And more importantly, how do you expect the Ravens defense to respond? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the channel for daily Ravens coverage. Hit that like button to support the content, and keep it locked right here for more exclusive updates. There's another video on the screen now. Click it to stay in the loop on everything Ravens.